Now, this year, we made $1,526.
Everybody, right?
And the money's all in the bank. I wanted it out of my house.
Oh, yes, go ahead, Marcia.
Yeah, I just want to tell, we have a lot of leftover hot dogs, hot dog buns, and all the condiments. We didn't even open any of the condiments with John Burke's. So.
We'll use it for the house.
Yeah, we'll use it for the house, but we have about almost 170 hot dogs and buns left. Wow. So, out 400.
I think we did real good for the training that we had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'll leave it at that. Like somebody told me before, zip it.
Well, I had, as you know, I had to run out for more kraut. We had 6 pounds of sauerkraut, which is what Richie had told me to get. We ran out, so I had to run out and get some more. But I came back, I said I was so happy that I didn't have to listen to all that first half. I don't mind opera, but somehow that just out in the park, it just wasn't, they had great voices.
It's like the Fly song?
Yeah.
Well,
It was a
actually,
Fly song?
The Fly song, which,
They made sounds like a fly.
no, I guess I think I missed that.
Frank, the best part of the concert was when you stood up and talked.
All right, anyway, that's tremendous. But that's what happens when we work together as a group. I mean, it was just great to see everybody out there. So while we sit on those laurels, Lon, did you want to talk about the Scrabble or Mr. Scrabble?
I sure do.
Because that's our next biggie that we have.
I'm going to take some of these. These are the sponsor forms in our letter from Department of Health and us. So take some of those and hand those out. And then I also have the golfer flyer. So if you know any golfers, or hand these out. Take some of these and pass those around. Yep, pass those around, take some. And then this here I handed out, or passed around last week. This is the raffle basket list that we're going to be doing again. This was very similar from previous years, so if you can sign up for any of those that you want to donate, get together with some folks. And then I'm going to also be emailing or talking to you personally. That's our sponsor list, and the highlighted line is our Rotary members that are associated with the business or individual. So take a look over that, and I'll be talking to each of you personally about that.
Thanks, Lon. Yeah, of course, this is we're helping Department of Health this time. We don't have all the big vendors from the Education Foundation, so we got to do our own. As you heard last week, when we went out on Saturday, John, Jerry, and I, and Jerry came back with $650 just from pizza shops, Hoagie's, shop, and he came back already. So I'm hoping to see some of them come in from the other places we hit. But if you just ask, I mean, somebody's going to say no. All right, move on. But if they say yes, you got somebody. That's how we're really going to make it. We will, if we get the golfers, we have a minimum of 120 golfers we have to get. We pay whether we have them or not for 120. If we do get 120, just that alone, just the golfers will cover our costs, plus we'll have a couple thousand to the good. So, yeah, go ahead.
Online, Lois said she's doing a raffle basket.
Oh, okay. Lois
is doing a raffle basket.
I have one too.
I don't know where that sign up.
It's right here.
You know which one to do.
Lois, right?
Yeah, I'll have a wine and something basket. Okay, so the whole thing here is sponsors now. The more sponsors we get, the more money we get. That's what it's coming down to. We do have a nice menu, and again, Sheila I've always found her easy to work with. Evidently that didn't work too well last year. There was some concerns last year, but I found her very easy to work with. She said I'm bringing up some of the flyers, because she said she'll put the flyers on the tables up there for us, because people do ask about tournaments. She has a number of her regulars up there like to know when there's tournaments, so we might get a few from there, which we've never really had before. But we're having, for 115, in case you're talking to anybody as a golfer, the golfer side, for $115, they're getting a hamburger and coleslaw lunch. They're getting hot dogs on the turn. There's the beer and the birch beer, and they're getting pulled pork and drumstick barbecue dinner with some sides, and plus the golf and the cart there. Today that's a pretty darn good deal, because it's hard to have any of these charity things that are under 150 or something like that. So it's a good deal, and I think if you have some golfer friends and they like to have some fun, I think it's a great opportunity. All righty, that's big. Next, do you have anything about the croquet tournament you want to say, Gary, or nothing?
What's the date of the croquet tournament?
Okay. And you're still having Sunday practices, 3 o'clock Sundays?
We are, but they moved to Dock Woods.
Oh, Dock Woods?
Yeah. With Dock Man,
Over near Dock High School there?
Yeah.
Back behind there.
3 o'clock on Sundays.
All righty. Glenn Miller, we have our former Rotarian, and Glenn Miller here. He'd just like to.
I'd just make a short announcement that the Southford Mennonite Church has like a festival on September 24th. It's about food insecurity. So I read on that you're raising money for the garden, and we have a garden, and we give a lot of tons of potatoes and tomatoes to Keystone and Hannah on Main Street. So we're also going to change some pistols. I think Randy has rifles into gardening tools, so that it's symbolic of tough times bringing out the worst in some people. And guns are part of that, but also food insecurity is part of that. So I have a little flyer here.
Give it to Marcia so she can put all that in on the notes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Glenn.
Plus, I just wanted to come and say hello to everybody. Still around.
All righty. The only other, let me see, anything other. Okay, we had, last night was the changeover at the district level. Well done. We were out at Pottstown at the Brookside. Len Geisler will be the new governor coming in. It was a nice affair. Phil was there, and Shushma, and myself and my wife from our area, from Harleysville. But again, I suggest you attend some of those things, because you have people from all over the district coming, and you just get to meet the other people, and it's a great opportunity. It gives you the sense of what Rotary's about. But it looks like it's going to be a good year, and I think I already said the conference, the district conference, is going to be in Atlantic City this year. So it sounds like a really nice deal, but a lot of fun. So we're off and going starting Friday. This Friday is July 1st. That's when everything happens. I can tell you from the district governor year, you get about, during the year, you get about 644 emails a day. Come July 1st, nobody knows you anymore. You're gone. You can't, you have no access to the stuff. I mean, it's just like, where you're going, goodbye. So it's really strange. But it is a new year, and we're looking forward to some new things. All righty, with that being said, Randy, you're on.
All right. Dan is getting my presentation up here. Let's see. All right, serving with Rotoplas. Many of you have been in the club for a long time and are familiar with Rotoplas, and some of you are newer, may not know much about it. You hear us throw the word around and hear some things about it, some announcements and things. But Rotoplas is and I'll talk more about the organization, but I want to say this. In 2004, I joined Rotary. In 2006, I went on my first Rotoplas mission, and that's when I became a Rotarian. And you learned what it was to involve other people and see people from other parts of the world, and all working towards the same efforts. If you could hit the next slide here, a little bit about Rotoplas. Rotoplas started in 1992 as a club project from the San Francisco Rotary Club. Dr. Angelo Capozzi, who is and Peter Lagarius. Dr. Capozzi is a plastic surgeon. He has been on missions all over the world, even before Rotoplas. Very gifted surgeon. And Peter Lagarius, who's an attorney in the Bay Area. These two men got together, and Peter had adopted a child from Chile. And when they were in Chile, observed that they had a lot of children there with cleft lip and cleft palate. And knew Dr. Capozzi did that kind of work, came back, spoke to Dr. Capozzi, said we need to do a mission, put together a mission. They put together several teams for the next couple years, did 5 missions down to Chile to repair kids' lips and faces from that. That grew into its own organization, and in 1996, Rotoplas became its own 501c3 organization, and today, as of today, have served missions in 26 countries and have over 21,000 patients have been served. And it's been a real joy for me, not only to participate, but to come up doing, started out, I was the quartermaster, did a lot of the supplies, did a couple other jobs, and then was asked to be a mission director, and now to be able to lead teams on missions around the world. Missions are sponsored by various Rotary clubs. Some of the larger clubs will sponsor a mission on their own. A lot of districts, our district is a sponsor, 7450, who is below us, sponsors missions regularly, as well as corporations like Chevron. Chevron is a big one in Venezuela or Bangladesh. They sponsor a lot of missions in Bangladesh, and as well as private donors and foundations. Yes. Okay. Now, people might ask, cleft lip. We don't see many cleft lips in the United States. There's a little girl, and I want to be careful here. There's a young girl here who is buses, Asian girl, and we're looking. She's adopted. She has a cleft lip that appears to have failed, and it opened up, and we're working to try to get her down to the Children's Hospital to have that repaired. But you don't. She works here on Saturdays, and you don't usually see that in the United States, because if a child's born in the United States with a cleft lip or palate, within a couple of weeks, they're down at Children's Hospital, get a full evaluation, and over the next depends on what their anomaly is. If it's just a lip, they're gonna have that repaired, then they're gonna have their palate repaired, they're gonna have any scarring repaired, they're gonna have speech therapy, they're gonna have all of that. By the time they're a toddler, they start school, you're not gonna know that they even had an issue when they were born. That doesn't occur around the world. I can't imagine right now in places like Guatemala, in places like India and Bangladesh, where Venezuela is a different story. We haven't been able to go there for years, but in some of these countries that were annual sites, what would happen, or where there's no surgeries, the backlog of lip and palate cases that we're going to see. And when we started getting, hopefully, the beginning of the year, we're able to take missions to those countries again. It's going to take a few years to catch up with the kids there. The whole goal is to get the kids, especially with a palate, before they start to speak, before they develop poor speech habits, and so on. What causes this? People always ask me, why is it so prevalent in those countries? Well, my daughters, and next Friday, I get to leave to spend a week in Scotland and then a week in England with my 3 grandchildren that I'll have together in the same room only for the second time ever. But my 2 daughters, when they were planning to start their family and start to have children, they went to their doctor. They had a physical. They talked to their doctor. Their doctor put them on vitamins and stuff, and they had healthy children, 2 healthy grandsons and a healthy granddaughter. Who were born with all their parts, who were born, with perfect little faces, and that's how we have it. We're accustomed to here in the United States and in developed countries. In the undeveloped countries, the nutrition is very poor. A lot of times, the lack of folate, the green leafy vegetables, is a big factor. Genetics is a factor. Pollution, poor water, just poverty in general, and the things associated with poverty. These all contribute to the cleft lip and palate. The mother is having identical twins, and both of them will have, if one has a lip, the other will have a lip as well. They'll be born the same. If a mother does not do something, has a child with a cleft lip and palate, she does not do something to improve her health, there's a good chance she will have a second child with a cleft lip or palate or palate. So it's very much more prevalent. What Rotoplas does is try to fill that gap. And there's many organizations that do the same thing, but Rotoplas, together with Rotary clubs around the world, go to some of the poorest places. People say, where are you going on vacation? People say, we're going to Cancun, or somebody will say, we're going, here, or we're going to Italy, and all this. Where are you going on vacation? Bangladesh, and it's like, we don't go to the garden spots. Those countries are, the places that we go are horribly poor, and I actually love to go to there. It's my favorite place to go, and the people are just wonderful. The kids are wonderful, and so and I'll show you some pictures from those in a bit. The other thing about the surgeries, the cleft lip, I had people tell me already, you go and do cosmetic surgery. No, it's not cosmetic surgery, it's life-changing surgery. If you have a child born in the developing world who has a cleft lip and a cleft palate, they're going to be shunned, they're not going to develop socially, because they're going to be shunned, they're going to be ridiculed. In Venezuela, they used to call them the devil children. They're going to stay in their hut, they're going to cling to their mother, they're not going to get an education, they're not going to get married, they're not going to have a job. Chances are they're going to die early because of infection, and they're going to have a horrible life. Our surgery is life-changing to those children. And my goal always is, and my hope, and I tell every Rotoclass team that I lead, is that my hope is that one day, one of these children, because we went there and we were able to help them and serve them by getting their little faces fixed, becomes a world leader, becomes a leader of peace, finds a cure for some debilitating disease, invents the better light bulb, whatever, but does something awesome because they had the opportunity to have a level playing field. Yes?
It also affects your drinking and eating
Absolutely.
and speaking.
One of the things, and I didn't do it this morning in Rotary, a lot of times when I speak about Rotoclass, I'll have everybody take their glass of water, tuck their tongue under, and try and drink. Watch everybody dribble down their face. That's what it's like for these children. Or the mother who's holding the child with a palate, open palate, and giving milk, and the milk is coming out their nose. I'm sorry you're eating, but that's the reality of it. But it's a life-changing surgery. Okay. Rotoclass teams. This is one of my teams from India a few years ago. I serve as the mission director. That's my goal, or my role. We have surgeons, depending on how many Rotoclass, or how many children or patients are expected, how many tables we're going to do. If it's a 3-table mission, or we're going to have 3 operating tables, we would take 4 surgeons. If it's 3, or if it's 2, we would take 3. Same with anesthesiologists. We always have an extra. And if, especially with anesthesia, if there's an anesthesiologist gets sick, we drop a table, so there's always an extra anesthesiologist. I learned from Rotoclass, I would rather have a mediocre surgeon and a top-notch anesthesiologist than the other way around. They're the ones that keep you alive. And we have some very, very gifted, experienced doctors that serve with us. Pediatricians, we usually have 2 on a team. They make sure the children are healthy before, after surgery. A very, very important job. A lot of kids come, the parents will lie. They will say that their child is healthy, and when they examine them, they're not healthy enough, they would not survive surgery. And you don't want to get into a problem like that. Nurses, some of the best people I have ever met in my life have been Rotoclass nurses. As a mission director, it's like herding cats sometimes. Usually the problems are with the non-medical people or with the doctors. I never, ever have problems with nurses. You could say, be there at 2 o'clock in the morning dressed in a clown suit, and they'll be there ready to go. The nurses are wonderful, but they serve in this surgery, and we take what they call circulating nurses, and then we use the scrub nurses, or the scrub techs are usually local nurses or local technicians that we pay, and then the circulating nurses, to make sure that everything's going right and keep observation. We also have PACU nurses, the post-anesthesia, the recovery nurses, all very, very gifted people. Then we have, according to where we're going, a dentist. That's how I got involved in this with Dr. Jack Brent. The old timers all know Jack and Ann. He got me on my first mission. He was a member of this club. Our club has had five people go on Rotoclass missions. Jack and Ann, Jack's first wife, Shushma, Rich Ashley, and myself. And Betty. Oh yeah, I forgot about Betty. Yeah, so we've had actually 6. How could I forget Betty? I mean, so we had we've had good group participation. Also speech therapists, according to where we go. And in Tanzania, because there's a lot of, and I'll talk about burns in a minute. We get a lot of burn cases. Tanzania, we usually take a physical therapist who specializes just in burns. And that's a real asset for that mission. And then the non-medical volunteers. The non-medical volunteers are typically Rotarians. If the district sponsors a mission, the first choice of non-medical volunteers is from that district. And if they cannot fill those positions, then they get volunteers from elsewhere. But do the supplies, do the medical records, do sterilization of the instruments, do help with the PACU, help with the nurses in the recovery room there. Trying to think what else other jobs there is, but we usually take about 6 non-medical persons, 6 or 7 non-medical people to go and help with the missions. And it's an interesting thing for many people who have never served in that kind of environment. And I encourage, and I'll talk about that in a minute, of getting involved in Rotary. But one thing is, we had some people, and as the director, I'm in communication with the team weeks ahead of time and up to when we leave, and of course all throughout. And I tell them, if you think you're going on vacation, think differently. It's not easy. It's a hard work, and we're up. We usually leave the hospital or the hotel by 6:30 in the morning. That means you're up at 5. We leave at 6:30. First surgery is usually starting around 7:30, and sometimes you go till 8, 9, 10 at night. I've been there till midnight already, and 7 days of surgery. We have 1 day off usually, and have been on missions where we work through our day off because we had so many patients to do. I come home, it takes me a week to straighten out when I get back, especially if it's overseas where it's a long flight, and it's hard work, but it's very exciting. Yeah. Here's an example. This little guy with his cleft lip. This is very typical. Some are worse, some are better, but this is typical. And you see this big gaping hole in this little boy's face. Oftentimes they will have a lip and a palate together, sometimes just one or the other. And this is, at the end of the mission after the boy had surgery. Now, if you looked at this boy 6 months from now, or 6 months from then, had a picture, you would barely see anything. And once all the swelling goes down and everything heals, the skin heals over and all that. We've had many mothers, when they come into the recovery room, they see their babies for the first time, just burst into tears, fall on the floor. We've had mothers pass out of joy to see the difference in their children. So it's very rewarding. And one thing about Rotary is, it's like instant gratification. You see the results of the work right away. Another thing in some of the countries is burns. Now, lip and palate is the worst, or is the primary goal, but we go to a lot of countries where there's burns. This is Shiro. Shiro is a poster child for Rotary. Shiro lives in Chittagong, Bangladesh, and this is how she came to Rotary for the first time. And it's hard on here, but her face is all burned. In a lot of those countries, women wear the silky saris and outfits. My hand fell down my shirt here. It's driving me nuts. They cook on these very rudimentary types of gas stoves that they pump up. A lot of times the stoves will backfire, and you see a lot of women who it catches, they're sorry, and you can tell right away when you see these women, it goes right up their front, right up under their neck, their under their arms, their breasts, and all, and it's hideous. Well, Shiro came, burned hideously. Some countries, and I've had it in Bangladesh as well, where children are born. One case I remember particularly, the child was born a girl, and the father was angry that he had a daughter and not a son, and threw that child in the fire. Unfortunately, that child, how these kids live, it's just a testimony of their resilience, but they live how they live past the initial shock and trauma of the burns. I don't know. But Shiro has had surgeries regular. She can't wait for Rotary to come. And she's there and she runs up and she recognizes me for being there. She comes up and runs up and always gives me a big hug. Can you pass the next one? This is Shiro, the last time we were there. Shiro has had a number of surgeries around her face, released her arms. Shiro has now gotten married. She's I don't know exactly how old she is. I would say late 20s. It's hard to tell. They have babies when they're young, and but I guess Shiro to be probably in her mid to late 20s. She is now married. She is now living a normal type of life. She still has a long way to go, but Rotary is able to do something to improve her life. So the burns is also another part of it, because our surgeons are all plastic surgeons, and many of them go into these countries. A lot of times we'll say doctors that's what they specialize in, burns, just to be able to do that. Here's my favorite part. Every one of these has a story. I always say, no child has surgery until the mission director has helped them. And I've had such wonderful beautiful little babies. And you walk in there and they have these gaping holes in their face, and you don't even notice it after a while. It's all you see is their big brown eyes. And these babies and little kids are just gorgeous, and they're like any other kid. They want to be loved, they want to be happy. They have nothing, many of them. I can tell many stories here, but this little girl right here, baby, 3-month-old Vanessa. Vanessa, that was in Guatemala, and Vanessa's mom and dad are about 20 years old. They had Vanessa, they're dirt farmers in the hills. They walked 2 days in a hot sun to get to the hospital. When they got there, Vanessa was beautiful, just jet black hair, straight up, dark eyes, almost black eyes. And it gets me every time I tell this, but Vanessa had a heart murmur. They detected a heart murmur. And before they would do surgery, she had to be evaluated by a cardiologist and have an EKG. We were at this little mission hospital that's just used for groups coming in. There's no staff there. It was very poorly equipped. We brought most of our own stuff. This parents walked 20 miles to a hospital for her to get evaluated. One of our team members paid it. They had no money, paid for it. Walked 20 miles back so this little girl could have surgery. I came home, I remember coming home on the airplane from that trip, and I said, never again would I ever complain about waiting in a waiting room at a doctor's office. If I had to go down the Schuylkill Expressway to go to Philadelphia to a doctor, when I had my apnea implant, I had to go to Jefferson. And it's a real pain in the neck going down to a hospital. It takes you, 5 times longer, than anything. And it's a real inconvenience. But I thought to myself, never. am I gonna complain? We live an hour away from some of the best hospitals in the world, you know, and I'm not ever gonna complain about going to a doctor, you know, where I sit in an air-conditioned waiting room, you know, clean everything when you have people like this. I love to see Vanessa today, and just a beautiful, and the mom, she would know when I would walk in the room, she wouldn't even, you know, hesitate. She would just hand her to me because she knew I was coming in. And so mom would just, you know, hand her to me, but she was just gorgeous. And some of these little children from different India and Bangladesh and Guatemala, I'm trying to think Tanzania, and some of those. But that's absolutely my favorite part of going, is just holding the kids and getting the stories, hearing the stories that come behind these children, how the parents get there. Some travel for days. Some take buses for hours and hours. And a bus there, if you ever rode on a Greyhound bus, I rode on a Greyhound bus one time, never again. You know, if you ever did, how long and difficult that is. But imagine taking a school bus, packing it full of about 75 people. That's their bus system in most of these countries. And ride on that for hours and hours, you know, in the heat. You know, to have your child come and have surgery, you know, and maybe even be denied if they have poor health, you know, so it's really special. Okay, some other things here. I love the children. These are community children. This is in Bangladesh. This one is in Guatemala, is in Colombia, actually. We had fun with the kids. But in Bangladesh, across from the hospital, there's this ghetto. And I went one day, I walked back through there to see where some of these kids live. They weren't our patients per se, but they saw us. We fussed with them every day. They came, they were outside the hospital, and we'd be up on the 3rd floor going like this to them, and every time they saw us, like this, and we'd fuss with them. They'd come over, and they'd see us, and we'd play. You see, a little girl here has pencils. You give these kids a pencil, you think you gave them $1 million. They guard that pencil or a sticker or a little pack of crayons like it was the last thing on earth, and just joy. They all have lice, you know, they all dirty, they all smell. They live in a 8x10 little tin shanty, dirt floor, maybe have one change of clothes, a bag of rice in the corner. Mom cooks out on a pot outside. There might be 4, 5, 6 people in that little shed. And, you know, they are happy. You give them a pencil, you know, you made their day. You made their world, you know, by giving them a pencil. So there's some of the people that we serve, and that's always fun to be able to, you know, just go down. And if we have time, sometimes we'll go down and somebody will play music and start dancing with these kids. What a joy that is. I don't feel so bad that I'm a bad dancer when I'm dancing with kids in Bangladesh, but it's just a real interesting time, you know, to be there. Okay, how can Rotary and Rotarians help with this? Well, there's several things. Number one, donate. Our club, I believe, still donates to Rotoplas annually. Our district does fundraisers. We're going to be having a show in Bethlehem, which I'll be bringing attention to in a few weeks in October. It's a fundraiser up at one of the theaters up there. There's all kinds of things that you can do. You can donate personally. If you want to invest in something where your money almost all goes to mission, it goes to the children, Rotoplas is a great opportunity. Because serving on their board, I know how the money is spent. It's extremely tight to, whittle out non-essential stuff, and as much money as possible is directed into the mission itself and to the children. So that's one thing. One of my goals is, and I'm hoping by next year to be able to do this, I'd like to do either a 5 or a 10K run, and I'd like to call it Miles for Smiles as a fundraiser for Rotary. And it's something I'm looking at planning, talking to certain people, and of course, Rotary I asked to help with, but that's something I'm looking forward to in the future. Volunteer. We just bought a new building, sold our old building. Bought another facility right outside of San Francisco in what's called South San Francisco, which is right near the airport. Save a lot of money. This is what I'm saying about cutting costs. We made money off the sale of our building. We bought another building in a much lower San Francisco within the city. The taxes are absolutely incredible. And saving money with that location there to be able to be closer to the airport, have a safer environment for the staff when we hire staff back to work, actually have parking and all that, and it's a much better facility. Right now, a lot of the board members from the Bay Area and other volunteers have been able to work and do cleanup and painting and stuff like that. A little hard for me when I live 3,000 miles away, but I would love to be out there to volunteer. But volunteers from in here, consider a mission. I'll tell you, it's 2 weeks of your life that you will thoroughly benefit from, and it's an investment. So, it's where opportunities come up, I will be talking about that. Lastly, support. I've been tremendously supported, by the members of this club, by Rotary, and my work with class. All the times Lenny and Larry, Shushma have taken me or picked me up at the airport, Rich Ashley, and helped me that way. But just an encouragement and prayer support and moral support, great thing that I appreciate from our club. Any questions? And if you can't read this, it says, "Hello, Harleysville Rotary Club." That boy in India is holding. Marcia.
You mentioned about the conditions of nutrition. Are there any efforts made by anybody to teach them how to farm or like help them?
Yes.
Grow the right kind of foods?
Well, in the big picture, it's very difficult. You're there for 2 weeks, and you're busy all the time. Education is a big part of Rotoclass. A lot of times, the PACU, the recovery nurses, and the speech therapists along talk to the mothers a lot about their nutrition and vitamins. We'll have kids in India where half of the population of India is vegetarian. A lot of times those kids are anemic. They can't have surgery. So by giving them iron, an early part of the mission, and they be able to build up their blood enough by the end to have surgeries, things like that. But education, and it's a lot of times a national, it's a regional thing. It's just poverty. I mean, they don't have the access. The poor people, heavy rice, diabetes is heavy. Vegetables, but not the right kind. Middle meat, and things like that. Fish, stuff that we take for granted, and it's very difficult. So, ideally, they would. And that's where like a group like Peace Corps or somebody like that who could go in and could improve their whole agricultural system and their food system would be helpful, but it's not easy for just a team to go and do that.
I think that life expectancy, just in general, there is much shorter.
Yes.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
You know, in the US.
Yeah. And if you see people, how, like COVID with, I think like India or Bangladesh is so densely populated. 170 or 180 million people in Bangladesh, the size of Wisconsin. You know, how with COVID, how everybody would get COVID, and how most of the people didn't die because there's such well, they live on the street, they live in ghettos, they don't go to the doctor. And I'm sure many had COVID, they recovered, they never even knew what it was, just were sick. You know, it's very difficult in those countries. Larry, you have a question?
That was my question, how COVID.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons right now why Rotoclass is hesitant to go yet. It's because of the COVID and taking COVID or bringing COVID to a team. And one person can throw off the whole mission if they get sick. So, and if you would have 3 or 4 or 5, 6 people get sick in our quarantine, that could cause a real problem. So I don't want to be the mission director on that mission because that would be a real problem. But
are there times when I'll say you're still aligned and the mission comes to a conclusion? How does that work? I have to just like triage these.
What happens is, real quick, and I know I think you're sorry here, but what happens is typically, and we may change this model because of COVID, typically what would happen is the first day you have clinic, and you might come there in the morning and we might have 300 kids and their families, okay? And everybody comes, grandma, grandpa, sometimes aunt, uncle, depending where you are, so you have hundreds of people. And they evaluate each of these children, and then they start, a lot of them will get eliminated, they get deferred because either they're sick, they have colds, they have something on their lungs, they are, maybe it's better to wait a year or two according to what their situation might be. The surgeons will look and say, listen, if we do this now, they're going to need this, this, and this later. If we wait a year, we can do all that at once. I look at it, I see a hole in the face. They look at it and they can decipher all that stuff. There might be other reasons, and then they build a schedule. And once that schedule is full, they will put in a good amount of overflow. Usually people who live reasonably close that can come back. So as we go through, there's always kids that don't get surgery. They would like to. I mean, very seldom not. But what they do is they try to, they put them on a list for the next mission, priority. Babies, infants with lips are always a priority because they get the most benefit. And young children with palates are a priority. So if you have a 10-year-old boy or girl and they have an open palate, as horrible as that is, they may be deferred or wait till there's an opening because it's not going to, they've already developed their speech patterns. They're going to close the hole in their mouth, in the roof of their mouth, but it's not going to help them speak better unless they have real intensive speech therapy, which they're not going to get. So that may be deferred. And it's hard, because, you want to see everybody, get and all. So.
I know you're going back to the same place in a few or something, or you have scheduled out?
You work with typically a local Rotary club or district. And I didn't say that, but that's how it usually works. You're working with a Rotary club or district. They do all the recruiting over there. They advertise. Radio is huge in a lot of those countries because, you know, everybody has a radio. And flyers, some putting radio billboards, drive down the road, you see, oh, Rotoclass is coming, such and such, you know. There are billboards, word of mouth, social workers, and that's how they do it. But the Rotary takes care of that. They arrange for the hospital. They arrange for you know, certain things like to pick us up at the airport. It's always nice when we get there.
Group? How do you know that your group, your dentists, your surgeons are gonna go down there in a year or two? Did you guys schedule where you're going for years in advance?
It depends. You get invited, number one. The country has to invite you. And then you go and then you develop a relationship. And some places you go once and you never go back. A lot of political issues. India is horrible. India, we have doctors that won't even go to India because of the pressure they put on the doctors for licensing and stuff like that. And they have so much need there, but politically, they don't want to look like they're bad. Tanzania, I flat out, I openly admit it anymore. We usually, when we go to Tanzania, we get there at 3 in the morning. I bribe the guy in customs. That's the only way to get through. You know, you'll be there for days if you want. And the guy says, I want $500. I says, no, you want $50. Here you go. We're going. And, you know, and that's, you know, the stuff you work around, the politics a lot of times is horrible. You know, and there's a lot of stuff you could do if they would let you do it. But I guess if you look at it, it would be like if you worked at Grandview Hospital, a group of people came from France, came to Grandview Hospital, and wanted to take over the patients you're working on. I can see it to some degree, but you know, it's ones who suffer the children. That's who suffers. So because they don't have people that can do it.
Is that the problem with Venezuela, the government?
Yep. So, but anyway, I appreciate the opportunity to speak today to my own club, and I hope to see some of you on Rotoclass missions in the future.
Well, Randy's just another example of why Harleysville has a good reputation in the district and so on, because of people like Randy who are involved in the district. So I keep encouraging all the time, just reach out a little bit more than just a club, and you'll get rewarded. There's no question about it. All righty, we have just 3 minutes for, but we can take 5 if you want. For trivia, you're all set up, so I don't want to.
We'll do the short version.
The short version. Okay.
That's right. Go right to the question.
Right.
Oh, okay. Larry, if you would, please.
Okay.
Oh, wait a minute here.
Nope, we're not ready.
We're ready. Wait, are we ready?
Take one.
Take one. That's right.
Ah, there you go.
We're ready.
That was it. Live from the Franconia Cafe, it's Rotary Trivia. Join us as one lucky contestant will play to win a fabulous grand prize by showing us what they know about Rotary. I'm your announcer, Larry Moss, here with your host, Bill Jenkins.
All right, let's get started by telling the audience about today's grand prize.
I'll ask the audience to direct their attention to our spokesperson, Carol Bauer. Today's contestant will be playing for a sensory fidget pop toy.
Ooh.
Simply push the bubbles to feel and hear a slight popping sound. When all the bubbles have popped, turn the pop toy over and start again. Pop for fun at any age, Len. Popping can help with stress, anxiety, or it can be used simply to enjoy yourself at home or work. Retail value of today's grand prize, that's a lot of green.
You are never going to believe this. I was walking in this morning with the grand prize. I get stopped by a weasel. Sees the prize, wants to play Rotary Trivia. In fact, anybody who wanted to play was strange enough, but the weasel. I asked the weasel, I said, what are you going to do with that? pop goes the weasel. All right, whoa, the audience, we better have the car running out, we can shut
Run.
Hold the doors.
Oh boy, we better slip out of here later. All right, introduce today's contestant.
I don't want. We've gone too far already. Today's contestant was selected at random from our studio audience just moments ago. This Rotarian is as bright as they come, and is bound to know the answer to our new pop quiz. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm round of applause to Lisa Martin.
Places. All right. All right, let's see what we know about today. Who will be the 2022-23 Rotary International President? Shakar Mehta, Valerie Wafer, Jennifer Jones, Chuck Heckenberg. Who will be, now you do have lifelines, mind you. Ask him, well, you're really thinking about that. Yeah. Ask a friend.
I just got the magazine,
Yeah.
it was on the front of it, and now do you think I can remember her name?
Chuck wasn't on the front, I know
Huh?
that.
Well, Chuck's out,
Yeah.
A's out also. Shakar, whatever.
Okay, it's a process of elimination.
Yeah.
Now she can do the 50.
Now
Okay, 50.
What do you think? Take a wild guess.
Jennifer Jones.
Jennifer Jones. JJ, okay. All right, we're pressed for time. Get rid of these other incorrect answers. Well done. Jennifer Jones. But as always, but wait, there's more. There she is, Jennifer Jones, a member of the Rotary Club of Windsor, Roseland, yes, Ontario, Canada, has been nominated to become the Rotary National President for 22-23. A groundbreaking selection that will make her the first woman to hold the office in the organization's over 115-year history. So she's the founder and president of Media Street Productions, an award-winning media company in Windsor. So a couple things. Jones sees Rotary's action plan as increasing Rotary's impact. And the action plan is like the 4 components that you can look up, but it's impact, reach, engagement, and adaptability to adapt. Also, another focus of hers is to innovate, educate, communicate opportunities that reflect today's reality, changing that fashion. And then also follow through on Rotary's diversity, equity, and inclusion statement. And the irony is, not the irony, I mean, you came across the board, but she's really focused in having women, which I understand, more involved, which thank goodness women became involved, something gets done around here. So anyway, yeah, that's it. Lisa, you're a winner. Take that stress out of your day. Thanks for playing.
Okay, she's, the incoming president was media production owner. Dan, it looks like she got away here.
Yeah, no.
There you go. All righty. Okay, Bragging Sacks. Anybody from Bragging Sacks? There would be.
Yeah, I'm not much of a golfer. I played, last time I played was last year at the tournament, and I broke 100 for the first time. I had a 99 yesterday, so my next goal is to play for the men's team.
That was at Freddie Hill, right?
Oh, wow.
Anybody else? Anybody on virtual that wants to have a brag or sag?
Oh, I have a sag.
All right.
I have a sag. We are short 2 croquet players tonight. Come on, somebody. Brenda, Lon, Glenn, Frank. All right.
Check with Vince.
We did. His wife just had a.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. All righty, any final comments, concerns, issues, so on? So yes.
We need somebody to step up, at least 2 or 3 people, to take over the sergeant at arms, setting up in the morning and taking attendance and stuff like that. I'll be around to help, but we'd like to get some new people involved in that, so please consider it.
Yeah, see, I said to, I mentioned to Chuck, if you remember when Earl used to run it, those who were here, he had 3 or 4 people. So they rotated, so it wasn't like every day. And when you do that, it's like once a month, there's only 12 months, once a month you kind of be the lead, but there's always somebody else here usually to help one way or the other. He's with Chuck being the president-elect, he's gonna have some other responsibilities and training and stuff like that. So what we're looking for is, 3, 4 people just say, yeah, we'll come in, and then Chuck could set up a rotation, and that, it'd be a lot easier. And all the stuff is here, it's all in the closet here, so we just have to pull it out and put it back. And as I said, you usually get help from some other people while you're here. So please, next week, which is it'll be our opening week. In fact, Chuck will be running the meeting next week because John's not here. So it'll be a good way to start the new year. Okay, let's remember, let me see who I have here. Jean-Jacques Rousseau says, what wisdom can you find that is greater than kindness? Remember, folks, to start. How do we start? We simply talk about Rotary today. Thank you all for coming, and Randy, thanks again. Right, take care.